What's up, family? This is your man, not your boy. Go Black to Africa. Family, I want to go ahead and introduce a brother here from the motherland. And I want to do this slight, small, little story, if you will, because this brother actually got to go through the channels of what the Haitian brothers and sisters went through trying to get to the American borders. And his story is very enlightening, and so that you all can get just a taste of the sacrifice and the determination that people have who are trying to come into this country, that he will share with you his story. So introduce yourself, my brother.
My name is Kafu. I prefer to stick with the African name Kafu. And I'm from Cameroon, Central Africa. And like you said, I got here in the US in 2019. Latter part of 2018, traveled through Latin America basically, just like a lot of the Haitians do, to get here. And actually traveled with some of them too.
So we're gonna get down into the nitty gritty, and I would love for you to just tell each step along the way where you started from, and then share, how, whether it's graphic, the horrific stories or the trying times. People are interested in wanting to hear that. And so I'll walk you down that, asking you some of these questions, and just to give people an understanding that the Haitians did not just pop up on the soil of America.
No.
These people went through a journey. So with that, family, let's listen to our brother's story, and we're going to go ahead and be able to experience what people actually go through. Brother Nkafu.
Yes.
Now, you shared with me the story of going through the Central America countries and stuff like that. Please start with, how did you come about trying to get to America and choosing that route?
All right, so it all starts with, I'll start with my reason for leaving in the first place. It's due to the current crisis in the English part of Cameroon, the country, and youths like myself are targeted by the government and killed, and terrible things are getting done to a lot of young people, children, for the mere fact that we are English speaking. So with that, I was especially targeted. Now that's a story for another time, but that was the main reason why I left. Now, I had heard about the routes through Mexico. Actually, there were two routes. The one that goes through the Sahara Desert, through the Mediterranean Sea to Europe, or that which goes through Latin America into the US. Now, I chose the US, and for several reasons why I chose the US. Now, the journey wasn't, I'd heard it was tough, but it was way tougher than I actually could have imagined. Yeah, it was way tougher than that. So, I started from Cameroon, left by boat, went to Nigeria, and then from Nigeria went to Benin, Republic of Benin. And then from the Republic of Benin took a flight through Ethiopia and transited Brazil, Peru, and eventually got to Ecuador. And then it's from Ecuador that the journey really, the hard part really starts, from Ecuador.
Brother, you fly into Ecuador.
Yes.
And so y'all land and everything, and then now, how do you know where to go? Did you have people waiting on you? What sense of connections did you have?
Actually, we had no one waiting for us. And the fact that Ecuador is a Spanish-speaking country, that made it even more challenging. That made it extremely hard, because the only thing we had done is, before getting there, we had booked a hotel. So, of course, we had to show that to the immigration, to the people at the airport, so they understand we have a place to stay. So when we got out of there, out of the airport, we had to take a taxi. We were like, all right, we used Google Translate. We had to use Google Translate, and the taxi drivers, some of them understand, I mean, they pick up strangers all the time, those that work at the airport. So they worked with Google Translate, and that's how we're able to tell them, all right, we're going to this hotel. And then we get there, and then from then on, it was just Google Translate, because we knew nobody. And they speak absolutely no English whatsoever. So it's just Google Translate. And then from there, we booked a bus to the border with Colombia. So we moved from Ecuador to Colombia, get there, go through the border. Of course, we had to pay an agent to sneak us through the border into Colombia. Because mind you, for Cameroon, we are visa-free with Ecuador, so it was fine. I could stay in Ecuador without any visa. But with Colombia, while, yes, Cameroon and Colombia are technically visa-free, but Colombia had restricted our visas. So we had to sneak in. And we got an agent from Ecuador. He snuck us, we paid him some money. He snuck us into Colombia. And then from Colombia, I had to pay another agent who took us they had to take us to the other border with Panama, all through Colombia. Now, Colombia is a huge country. That journey took about 4 days. But unfortunately for us, somewhere along the line, because we meet, of course, checkpoints with police, and we just had to bribe them and show them our ID and bribe them, and they'll just let us go. But then we got stopped by some of them, and they just wouldn't let us go. And after struggling, we had to bribe them a lot of money, and then they eventually let us go. And then when we got to the border between Colombia and Panama, that's where the real hard part started. All of this was hard, but I call it mild hard. It's from Colombia into Panama upwards. That's when it really gets really tough. So we had to pay agents who would sneak us into Panama. Now the only way to get into Panama was across the sea through the jungle and what they call the Darien Gap. I didn't know it was called the Darien Gap at that time. It's now getting here, I found it's called the Darien Gap. So we paid these agents now, and they had to go by sea. We had to go by sea in a boat to an extent, and then they drop us at the jungle, and at that point we are at the edge of the jungle, and at that point we are left to ourselves. So they were really rough because they were trying to evade Colombia immigration. Because if Colombia immigration caught them, they were going to go to jail. So they had to evade, so they were very rough. I remember on the boat, they were so rough on the boat. I was sitting at the front, and the boat was beginning to crack open because of how hard it was bouncing off of the waves. I saw the boat began to crack open, and there was water already seeping into the boat. And it was at night. And you're just looking and you're like, oh God, help me. Because if the boat capsizes at that point, what are you going to do? It's open sea, it's high sea. And there was this lady from Somalia. She actually almost fell off. She was sitting at the back, and because it was at night, the seas were rough, the boat was bouncing, she almost fell off. One of the guys, the Colombian guys behind, he grabbed her. She was almost gone. Her bag fell into the sea because we had to travel with some bags of provisions. Her bag fell into the sea. So we get to Colombia, to the border with Panama, and then we are left to go through the jungle.
Okay, my brother, so you go through this, riding the boat, bouncing on the waters, boat cracking open and stuff. You're seeing water seeping in, people trying to almost falling off the boat. I know you're probably horrified. And they eventually get to your destination, the jungle. They drop you off. How do you know where to go? There's nobody there waiting on you. And then share that experience. You now are in Panama now.
Yes.
Please share that.
You just have to figure it out yourself. I mean, when we got to it's basically a seashore, and then there's this huge jungle right staring at you. There was this footpath, a little entrance into the jungle, a footpath. We just figured, all right, we would just get in there. That's probably the way, because probably a lot of migrants have probably used this way. So we just get in there and start walking and just figure it out along the way. And then eventually we met some local people, about there were three of them, and they knew that there will be migrants passing by here at about this time. That's what we understood. They probably figured it out. So they were there to make some money, help us out. They were like, all right, pay us, and we would show you a shorter route. And we paid them, and they took us to a certain extent. Now, these had come in from Colombia.
What is?
These local people.
Okay,
These
so
three guys.
let me understand. How long were you on your journey till you ran into these people in the jungle?
A couple of hours. It was a night. We walked for a couple of hours.
Okay.
And then we met them somewhere, and because they had to hide, they had to hide as well from the immigration. So they were hiding somewhere in the jungle, hoping that somehow migrants would pass by there and they'll help them out. So we met them, and they offered to, show us the way for some money. We gave them the money. They took us to an extent to where the jungle actually, the Colombia part of the jungle ends. Because these were Colombians. Now they told us they couldn't go any further because this is where the Colombia part of the jungle ends, and then we'd have to go on ourselves. Now, even before then, they had showed us a mass grave with some pictures of people who had died in the jungle. They found some corpses, dug a mass grave, and just dumped them in there. So while we're seeing that, the women start crying and stuff like that, getting all emotional, we were like, oh man. But
how many people is in the group with you?
At that point, I'd say we were roughly 20 or 30.
Okay.
Because there were a lot of Africans and some guys from Cuba and Pakistan, Indonesia, Malaysia, different countries. So I would say we were approximately 20 to 30. So they left us, and they actually advised us, where they left us, they actually advised us to spend the night there. So we had to spend the night out there in the open jungle. We had to spend the night out there in the open jungle with all the sounds and stuff. Now, after that, in the morning, we had to start walking by ourselves. Now, mind you, this time it's a mountain. And it was raining at that point, so there was mud. We had boots on, and I'm really tall, but there were points where my foot would sink into the mud to knee level. Can you imagine how hard it is getting your foot out of mud that's up to knee level? I remember there was this lady, a Congolese lady, she had a baby with her. She could barely walk. She was crying, literally walking, and she would get to a point, she would start, We had to help her with the baby, help her with her bag. We walked and got to a point we met when we finally got down the mountain, because we walked all morning and we were quite fast. A lot of people couldn't walk as fast as we did. We get to the other side, we had to follow the Panama River. We just followed it downstream. Mind you, we really didn't know the way. We were just figuring out ourselves. And we walked. This is where we met. Along the line, we met one of the guys who died on the way. He was from Somalia. He was with one Cameroonian girl who was pregnant. She eventually she's in Texas now. So we met them along the way. We kept walking. It was around evening, so we slept. And it started raining. rained on us all night. After walking all day, climbing hills and mountains, you get to the point in the evening where you want to rest and it starts raining hard on you. Now, it rained and it stopped and we just kept walking. Before it was daybreak, we just kept walking because we couldn't sleep. We just kept walking. Now, by daybreak, the rains had ceased. Well, where we are, the rains had ceased, but we didn't know that it was still raining upstream. And another thing we didn't know is that when it rains upstream for so much, sometimes there's a gush of water that just pours out downstream. So while we were walking, we could clearly tell that the banks of the river extended way beyond what we were seeing. It had actually dried up a little. So while we were walking, we heard this loud gush coming from upstream. And before we realized it, it was water. It happened twice. This thing I'm telling you happened twice. The other time we were at the immigration camp in Panama, but this time we were at the jungle. While it was rushing toward us, we ran out into the jungles. Now, there was this Cameroonian girl who was pregnant. She was caught in the water. And the guy from Somalia who died, he hit his head against a stone. As the water just carried him, he hit his head against a stone. And then the Cameroonian girl, I won't say her name.
That's how he died.
That's how he died. He hit his head against a stone. He lost. We were sitting out there. We were watching as he was unconscious. There was blood oozing out, all covering the water. We couldn't do anything. And then the girl as well, I won't say her name just for, she was as well, we saw her getting carried away, but there's nothing we could do. And later, while we were walking, nobody could talk. Nobody really could talk. And then we walked downstream after the gush had calmed down a little bit. We kept walking. We found her, the Cameroonian girl. She was holding onto a stick, like the extension of a branch of a tree. Some of the trees extended over the river. So she had somehow successfully held on to that, and she was just holding on to that. And that's how we got her out of there.
Okay, so you recover the girl.
Yes.
Who's pregnant, and she's from
Cameroon. Yes.
How old is she?
I'd say she's about my age.
20?
Probably 29, 30.
29, 30. And the Somali guy who died, how old was he?
I'd say, yeah, he should have been in his 30s back then.
And so y'all never seen his body no more?
We did. We walked downstream and we found him laying at the bank of a river.
Okay.
The banks of the river. And that's all we could do was pull him out. And we just stayed there for a while, you know. Some people took some pictures. My phone was completely bad because it was soaked in water.
Yeah.
Some people took some pictures and we had to leave him there because first we didn't have the tools or the strength to dig.
Did you know his name?
We didn't know his name.
Didn't know his name or anything?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, so you're still in Panama, the desert. I mean, excuse me, the jungle.
Yes.
Going through this, it's raining, it's pouring. Did y'all have any problems with wildlife, animals?
Yes.
Did y'all? Like
Yes.
what?
So we eventually get to a small settlement somewhere in the jungle.
After recovering the girl?
Yes, after recovering the girl.
Okay.
We get to a small settlement and they sold some food. We bought some food. And then we met some guys with canoes. Like, you know what a canoe is?
No.
It's basically, it's a kind of boat made out of wood.
The canoe.
The canoe.
Okay, gotcha, yes.
Exactly. So they told us, all right, they are from Panama. They are going to take us to the bank of a village where the immigration police is at. And we had, of course, to pay them some money. We paid them the money. The river at that point is just, it's complete red, like, or yellow, completely dirty. So while we were in the canoe, at some point, some point in the journey, while we were in the canoe, the guy in front, he was trying to say something to us in Spanish, but we couldn't understand. And it's later that we understood. He was trying to tell us, all right, we are getting into Crocodile Territory. Because we saw literally a herd of crocodile on both sides of the river. Both sides. They were just waiting for us. If the boat capsizes, or the canoe, if it capsizes, they would just leap in. They were literally just there. So many of them, I would say probably 20 or so, about 8 or 10 on both sides. And they were just waiting. And if you've ever seen some of these things huge in the wild, they are huge. And we went through that. Thankfully, nothing happened to our boat, canoe, thankfully. And then we eventually get to Panama. We went to the immigration police. We introduced ourselves, told them we were migrants and stuff like that. They took us in, they registered us, and then after a couple of days, they sent us to the other border. The other border with, well, actually not the other border, we all call the second camp, the second immigration camp. It was at the second immigration camp as well that another Cameroonian guy died. He went to the river there and apparently was pulled down by something. A crocodile, something just pulled him down. His corpse was recovered only after 2 days and buried just behind the camp. So eventually they sent us through Panama into Costa Rica. And Costa Rica was quite a reasonable country. They received us, treated us well. But again, there was a language barrier. And it is at Costa Rica that I met the first, actually we met the Haitians that we traveled with for the rest of the journey. We met Haitians in Costa Rica. And then from Costa Rica getting into Nicaragua, that was a struggle.
Okay, brother, so y'all about to approach into Panama. Now, in Ecuador, you spent how long in Ecuador?
About 4 days.
And that was in riding in cars, walking?
Yes, we spent some time in hotels, spent some of the day, because it's these countries we have to drive, we literally had to drive, we couldn't take any flights. So there was some days we spent complete days in a bus driving, heading to the border with Colombia.
Okay, and so getting into Colombia, you said you went through immigrations.
No.
Or you snuck into?
Snuck into Colombia.
You snuck into Colombia. How long did you spend in Colombia?
About 3 days, all on the road.
On the road?
Yes.
So Ecuador and Colombia was through a vehicle?
Yes.
Bus or what have you?
Yes.
To get to the other side of the country,
Colombia,
and
yes.
then sneak into Colombia, take another car or
Yes.
bus to get to Panama.
Mm-hmm.
How many days you spend in the jungle in Panama?
The group I walked with spent just about 2 days, a little over 2 days. Some people spend a week, some people spend 2 weeks.
So you see different groups that
Yes.
are there when you're in the travel.
Yes.
Okay. Now you mentioned about money. So this is money that you're paying people to help you along the way.
Mm-hmm.
This is money you have carried from when you left Africa.
Yes.
And so everybody's got money on them. What happens if you don't have money? Or you run out of money by paying these people?
It depends where you are. For example, if you're in the jungle and you don't have money, they'll literally, if they're kind enough, they'll just leave you there and you'll wander around and die.
Can you follow the group?
You can't.
They won't let you
They
follow?
won't let you follow the group if you don't have money.
Okay, because they
So-
want to get paid.
Yes. So some of the people who died and were buried in the mass graves, they actually died because they didn't have money. They were lost in the jungle. There was no food. It's a jungle, or some of them may have been attacked by animals, but they just told us they were lost in the jungle. I have a friend, one of the guys who traveled with in our group, his junior brother was lost like that in the jungle. He was stuck in the jungle for almost 3 weeks. He eventually found an old man in a village, in a bush house, and it was that old man that helped him. you see.
Okay.
So most people, when you don't have money, you get, if they're kind enough, they will leave you there. If they're not kind enough, they will shoot and kill you.
Okay. So then we get into now going through the jungle. You see a guy from Somalia who dies, hits his head on a rock. You recover a pregnant mother along the way. You all then get in contact with another people.
Yes.
Who helps you get to the border to Panama.
Yes.
Okay.
And so from the border, when we get to the immigration in Panama, we go through Panama and Costa Rica are possibly the most reasonable countries there. The immigration received us, sent us to the second camp, what they call the second immigration camp. They received us there. Unfortunately, another Cameroonian guy died there, the one who went to take a shower in the river and just got lost. And then they eventually handed us by themselves to the immigration in Costa Rica. Immigration in Costa Rica as well took us to the other border, their northern border, the border with Nicaragua. Now, they told us straight up, Nicaragua is a crazy country. The president himself goes down with guns in the jungles to hunt and kill migrants. So you are on your own, you've got to be careful. And we actually saw that firsthand in Nicaragua. We had to sneak in again by boat.
To get into Nicaragua.
To Nicaragua.
So now, and when you got into Panama, how long was you in Panama?
About 2 days.
2 days, and that is traveling time.
Yes, sometime in the immigration camps, and then some time as well on the road.
Okay, and so then 2 days in Panama, you get to Costa Rica. They connect you with another group of people,
Rica,
the immigrations.
Yes. Yeah.
So Panama and Costa Rica are friendly in them reporting you to immigrations. They document you,
yes,
that you're in the country, and they'll send you along your way,
yes,
through the country to get to the next place,
yes,
the next country. Okay, understood.
So, but they told us Nicaragua is wild. So, getting into Nicaragua, we had to sneak in through a boat. Just similar thing to Colombia and Panama. We had to, they'll take us to a certain point, and then we'd get into another jungle. And then we had arranged with an agent in Costa Rica who had someone in Nicaragua who was going to pick us up somewhere in the jungle. But unfortunately, there was a boat ahead of us. Unfortunately, one of the guys in the boat fell off because, again, it's the high sea. They have to escape the immigration police. So they are very rough. There was the boat ahead of us. The guy fell off. Now, his junior brother was in that boat. His junior brother could not stop crying the rest of the trip because you see your brother fall off. He tried to leap into the sea to go save his brother. They actually held him back. That if you do that, you're going to die as well, because this is the Pacific Ocean. It's very rough and it's high sea at night. And he falls off. We didn't see that because they were ways away and it was a night. It's only when we got there, the guy was unconsolable. He was uncontrollable. What happened? And then they're telling us his elder brother fell off into the sea, and that was it for him.
So you all get into Nicaragua,
yes,
from the boat ride. Okay, and so they release you all by yourselves. How many people are with you all now along the trip?
Still probably around 30.
30 people.
Yes.
Okay.
So we go through the jungle, get to this agent who was supposed to pick us up.